So, Clangen, you know it, you love it. I've tried it like 3 times to try and do some sort of event with it. And while I would love to do like a yearly update thing, the one problem is that I have to, keep updating it. So I don't have the attention span to actually commit to more than like 1 or 2 years of doing this. So instead, I'm trying a life gen thing with my character Scraps, but they're a cat, so Scraps Kit. If anything, this is more of a highlight reel and then an actual playthrough, but I did play it in a stream a few days back as of making this script. I will point it out to you guys somewhere in the screen, or link it down below, one of the two. But I figured this would be both a good way to get all of the story out, in case I kind of drop the ball on making a little highlights video, and 2, it is way easier than documenting everything obsessively in a document. But anyway, let's dive into Scraps Kit's first 3 years of being in Nettle Clan. So the idea with Nettle Clan is that they overthrew the leader in a coup because the leader was not aligned with what they wanted. So we got Turtle Star, who was 16 moons when they started. Like, when this clan started. 16 moons! That's like barely a year. That's wicked young. And initially they were gonna be like bloodthirsty, ruthless. I would force like bad interactions with patrols in the clans, and the Dark Forest Guide, Butterfly Ash. They would be actually chill, and they would have like, been giving Scraps a heads up that things were corrupt, and they would have to knock out all of the corrupt leaders, with Scraps being like the puppet or something. And he's just rolling with it. But as I went on, I wasn't really feeling trying to maintain this plotline, so it just eventually went to Scraps as a kitten wandering into the Dark Forest, and Butterfly Ash just kind of staring at them like, you're not supposed to be here. But Scraps Kit just keeps coming back, and Butterfly Ash is just like, okay, guess we're doing this. You want to do training? And Scraps Kit is like, yes. And then Butterfly Ash going back like, alright, cool, I guess we're training. Now, Scraps is a cat of very little words. Like, they're basically non-verbal, but they do pop in a few times with, like, actual sentences and then kind of don't say anything for hours. But that's just how he is, and the clans more or less accepted it. And no one really notices the fact that he's been training in the Dark Forest for all of his apprenticeship, because, like, he has the vibe of someone who has one brain cell like a DVD screensaver, which is how they were initially, but as they've grown older, they've gotten, like, actual critical thinking in their head. They're way smarter than they look, way more observant. They just don't like talking, and they get that wall-eyed stare from being an exotic cat. But outside of getting their tail mangled 3 separate times, well, technically 2, because I set that up initially in his kitten creation thing because I wanted to kind of mimic a rat tail, but then Dark Forest decided, hey, we're gonna do this twice to him. So if they didn't have fur on their tail beforehand, they sure as heck don't now. And outside of an inexplicable hate for Flaxfade, which I intensified, Scraps Paw eventually grows up to be Scrapsecho, and after a bit of flirting, he becomes mates with Adderpool. He's aloof and a dream shaper, but my idea is that he was just aloof and honestly kind of rude to Scraps because he didn't quite get the whole Scraps wall-eyed stare into nothing thing. But at some point, they connected by Adderpool just venting to Scraps at some point, and Scraps, being the great listener he is, just sat there and let him go. And then Adderpool was like, wow, no one has ever, like, you were so nice, thank you. And then they started dating, and then they became mates. They had 2 litters. Well, adopted 2 litters. There's a whole thing with, like, oh, they can adopt from, like, a cat in the wild or something. I just call it, like, a surrogate situation. But his first litter was Green Sheep, Riverrock, and Cloverbreeze. Poor Dapplecit never making it past kithood. And then for the second litter, it's just Buzzardpaw, Stonepaw, and Bristlepaw. I haven't decided which of the kits would end up looking like Scraps, like which ones he ended up siring, because I know kittens can have 2 dads in a litter. But I figured I would figure that out when it comes to Scraps, when they finally die and reincarnate, and I take control of the next one. But in any case, the relationship goes great. Well, Scraps kind of has an affair for a short minute with Tough Mallow. But, like, I felt bad about doing that because then Adderpool got, like, heartbroken, and so, and by extension, Scraps felt bad about doing that. And then they continued to be mates up until Adderpool was murdered. I don't know if you guys saw in the clan scroll at the beginning where I was explaining what the clan's whole vibe is, but there was like 4 medicine cats, and one of them was Rainstem, who I believe is the oldest, but she, for some reason, decided to feed Adderpool deathberries, which, what? I saw that, and immediately was like, okay, Scraps is gonna kill her. And I had this idea in my head of Butterfly Ash, who kind of treats him as her son at this point. Saw that Scrapsecho's beloved mate was dead, killed by a medicine cat no less, and just went over to Scraps like, hey, so you wanna know who killed Adderpool? You know how you can fix that, right? In-game, I used Tough Mallow as an accomplice because they did have a little bit of a relationship. But in canon, I'm seeing that as, like, Tough Mallow agreeing to do so because she had kind of had a relationship with Scraps, and they both felt like it was a bit of a mistake because it made Adderpool so sad, and ultimately decided, you know, if anyone's going to take the fall for this, it's going to be me. You killed his murderer, that more than makes up for the infidelity. Me preventing you from getting exiled will help out the other half of it. Which she only said because the alternative would have been being ripped apart by Scraps, because she saw Rainstem's remains, and oh god. I still find it weird that she was the only one that actually got shunned, because Scraps is equally guilty of killing Rainstem, but like, maybe the Focus Cat can't get shunned or anything? I don't know how Life Gen works. But that's where I left the clan on in my first session, and sometime later I will be doing a second recording session, or a streaming session rather, and we're gonna see what happens to Scraps after this. So that should be interesting. If you guys want to check that out, just check out nights when I'm streaming anytime after 3, probably closer like 6 or something. I can't promise when or what day, but I'll probably set up a little premiere thing for it, just to be safe. In the meantime, thank you guys for listening, and have a good day, or night.